In this video, we are going to learn how to create a value scale with one primary color of our choice. We're also going to learn how to mix complementary colors. So I've chosen red from the three primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. And I have a little pile of red on my paint palette, and I have a little bit of white and black as well. So I'm going to start by painting red in the middle of my paper, and that's going to be sort of the mid value. Then what I've done here is I've done a little pile of red, and I've added a tiny bit of white to it. So that's going to be my next value. So I want to see a noticeable difference, but not too noticeable, not too much difference. So next is I'm going to add a little bit more white. And I've made it a separate little pile on its own on the palette. And the reason is that white, the tinting strength of the color white is not very strong. So I wanted to remove some of the red so that the white actually can have a chance of making a difference. So that's my next value. And I will do the same with a bit more white. And notice how I'm going really slow. I'm adding a tiny bit at a time, because once you add it, you can't take it out, right? So that's my last value there. And so that's kind of like a light pink. So we were only needing to do 5 values, but I'm doing 7 values for this. So our next order of business, I guess, is to do the side where we're going to add black. So I've washed my brush. I'm going to take a little pile of red on my palette and separate it out, and then I'm going to add like a teeny tiny amount of black. So black has a strong tinting strength, and so just a tiny bit will make kind of a large change, even in such a small amount of red. So I'll just paint that on. I didn't have enough paint, so there we go, and that's a noticeable difference. So we normally wouldn't be adding black to a color. We would probably want to add maybe like a complementary color or another darker color like blue. But this is a good exercise to do. So that's why we're doing it. So I'm just going to slowly add some more black and a bit more red as well, because I didn't have a ton of paint. And swatch that on. And then finally, I'll add a tiny bit more black and do my final value. So what I want to have is darker values, middle values where it's just the color without anything mixed into it, and then the light values. And you'll see how I continue to add the black paint slowly and cautiously, because it has a very strong tinting strength. All right, so that is my 7 value scale using the primary color red. So now I'm going to mix 2 complementaries. So I'm going to mix a green and a red. So this green is a bluish green. It's called phthalo green. So it'll work really well to mix into red. It won't be as brown, but you can just go with whatever paint colors you have. Remember, we're mixing complementary colors. So I'm going to start with my red on the right side, and on the left side would be my green. So I'm doing the same sort of process where I'm just gradually adding a color to another color. But this time, instead of using black, I'm going to use green. So I've taken a tiny little dab of green and I mixed it in with my red. And as we know, with complementary colors, we get sort of like a brownish neutral color when we mix complementaries. So then I will just swatch that out. And the darker green does have a stronger tinting strength than the red. So that's why I'm adding the green to the red, and I'm doing so very slowly. So now I'm going to get a little bit more red, do a little puddle of red and add a bit more green. And then obviously I'll just continue on with that process until my color at the very left side will be just the green on its own. Okay, so I'm at the point where I could just do the green on its own. But what I found, so I'm just wiping my brush off to make sure that there was no leftover red in there. What I found was that the green was quite transparent, and so I would have needed maybe a second coat of green in order to make it sort of make sense with the value scale. So that would be an option, is for me to do a second coat once it dries of that little swatch, or I decided to add a tiny bit of red into it. Let's just add a little bit more continuity with the rest of the value scale. So that is it. We want a value scale using black and white, and then practice mixing the complementaries. So you get to choose which complementaries you mix and which primary color you use for your value scale. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to take a photo of your work and save it so that you can submit it for your sketchbook assignment for this lesson.